Hello, this is Ron Zaboya, and I'm the Managing Partner for Stratus Innovations Group, and welcome to our Introduction to Office 365, and this webinar is entitled Account Administration and Basic Account Management. So let's begin. So for this webinar, I'm going to show you how to do the basic type of functionality of adding users, setting their type of access, setting their subscription, what subscriptions they'll have, what functionality they'll have, as well as showing you how to set up a security group. A security group is a group of individuals that have the same access type functionality, and then setting up a domain. And a domain simply says, and a domain is simply your typical internet domain, and setting that up so that Microsoft will become the authoritative mail source, if you will, for that domain. So, for instance, my organization, this fictitious organization, is called AcmeCom Inc., and our domain, our typical domain, is acmecom.com, and I'll show you how to set that up. Also from the same administrative portal, this is where we'll do additional functionality like email migration. That is where we will take your on-premise mailboxes and migrate them to Exchange Online in the cloud. And I can do various other aspects from here. You can open up support tickets, all kinds of aspects that you can do from this, right from this screen. So let's show you how to do basic user setup and functionality. So as you see, when your service is provisioned, it simply has one user provision, and that's the individual that signed up for the service. So let's go ahead and add another individual, and I'll show you how to add an individual individually, and then we'll do it as the bulk adding. So click New User, and on this I'm going to add Riley Smith, who's in our organization. So I'll type the first name, last name, and you'll see it defaults to the display name, which is fine. And in our organization, we use first name dot last name at theorganization.com. So right now you're going to notice this is acmecom.onmicrosoft.com, and that's the format that it uses until we validate that domain. This domain hasn't been validated yet, so let's just go ahead and use that. And at this point, that's the only one that is available. So for the purposes of just basic setup, let's go ahead and set this up. Click Next. The next thing it's going to ask us is, do you want that individual to have administrator privileges? And it could be billing administrator. That person is responsible for managing the billing environment for your organization as it relates to Microsoft. You could be the password administrator, so that person sets and resets and changes passwords for individual. A service administrator managing Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, or other user management administrator like we're doing here. But for the sake of this, let's just say no. Riley is not an administrator, and set the location, and we're in the United States. Click that, click Next. Next, it's going to ask us to assign the licenses, and this will default to the plan that you have purchased with Microsoft. And here we have the E3 plan, which gives us capability to have Office Professional Plus Client, Link Online, Office Web Apps, SharePoint Online, and Exchange Online. So for here, I'm just going to say go ahead and assign all these licenses and capabilities to Riley. Click Next. Next, it's going to want an email address to send Riley's temporary password. And this is the password Riley's going to use to log in for the first time, and then when he logs in, they're going to ask him to change his password. So let's just use that for the email address. Click Next. And then it'll come back, and this has its provisioned Riley, again, first name dot last name at acmecom.onmicrosoft.com, and the temporary password. And again, this is what Riley would use as his user ID and password to log in for the first time. And then once he logs in, it'll ask him to change that temporary password. So let's click Finish. And then you'll notice that Riley has been added. So let's add some more users, but instead of doing it individually, let's do a bulk add of users. And the way you can do this is via an Excel CSV file. And the way you get this CSV file is you can download a sample of what that CSV file needs to look like. And I've got one already created here, and when I downloaded this file, it created all of these headers up here in this first row. It had all the information that needed to be entered in. The username, again, is the user ID, the first name, and what we use first name dot last name at acmecom.onmicrosoft.com. Put the person's first name, last name, what display name in the address book, what that'll show as, and various other pieces of information. So I've gone ahead and created this. So let's jump back over here and let's browse to that file. And I've got that set up to account import.csv. Click open and then click next. Then you'll notice it'll say how many users that passed verification and errors. And if there were any errors, you could click view to see what those errors are. But again, on here on this first column, it'll say verification, and it'll either say verified or error with a specific column name. But as you notice on here, everything's been verified, so that looks good. And let's click next. Next, it's going to want to know, do we set their sign-in status automatically available so that they can log in immediately and use the service, or do we want to block them? You would want to block them if you're going to do a mailbox move and you haven't quite completed setting this up. But for here, let's just go ahead and set up allowed. The location, let's go ahead and set up the United States. Click next. Again, as before, it wants to know which licenses. Again, this will default to our plan. We're the E3 plan, and I'll say for these users, I want to go ahead and add all that functionality for them. I'd ask again for the results, for the email address to send the temporary password. I click next, and as you see, it created all of these users and it assigned their temporary passwords, and then I can send to each one of these individuals what that temporary password and what their username is, and then they can log in. So at this point, you'll see all of these users have been added into the organization. Next, I'm going to create a security group. And again, a security group is simply a grouping of individuals of like functionality, similar security access and authentication. So I'm going to create a new group, and I'm going to call it the Senior Leadership Team. Brief description, click Save, and then it's going to ask me which users we want to add to that. So for here, I'm going to add myself, I'm going to add Mike, Frank, and Jill. These are all the senior leaders of the organization. Click Add, and if you notice on the right, we have have all of these individuals there, and we'll click Save and Close. And we've added that security group with those individuals, and we can add more if we want. The last piece is domains, and the purpose of this, as I mentioned, and as you see up here at the top, your online service account comes with a domain, whatever your organization that you set up, .on Microsoft.com. But you can set it up so that when you log in, you can just use your traditional name, your user ID at organization.com, and in this case it would be ron.savoya@acmecom.com. And I can add a domain, and at that point I can add the domain so Microsoft becomes the authoritative source. So for here, I'm going to type acmecom.com, check domain. It'll say, yep, we validated it. This is who you are. This is your registrar. And at that point, you'll come through next. And then what it'll ask you to do is it'll ask you for some information to put into your DNS server that simply verifies you are who you are. And there's two ways to do it. The first one is creating a TXT record in your DNS server, but the final method is going to be adding an MX record. MX is mail exchange, which simply says when any mail comes to that domain names, so ron.savoya@acmecom.com. The acmecom.com, the mail exchange record simply says, Microsoft Online, I want you to be the authoritative source, so anything that comes, you are my mail exchange for that. So this is the process of what you would do to go through to add your domain and verify your domain. I'm not going to do that at this point, so let's just go ahead and click cancel. So let's delete that for now. And we'll continue. So at this point, we've added users, we've added security groups. This is where we could have done a domain setup. We managed our subscriptions. You can, if at this point you want to add additional subscriptions, right now I've got 25. If I want to, I can go in and change that right from here. So there's all kinds of different aspects of here that we can set up from this aspect of it. But this is the general administration that you'll want to do. And again, also from here, if you want to enter support requests, I can go ahead and enter in a service request. If there's an issue that I'm having, you just click new request and it goes off, and then it will be managed for you, and you'll get any updates via email. Finally, from this portal, there's a service health link that basically you can see what the health of the various services are, if there have been any issues. So for instance, with the sign-in portal, you notice that there was some specifics that were going on. So they were looking at, it'll tell you what the specific issues are, but if we go back, but again, you'll see from that aspect of it. And then finally from here, you can see if there's any planned maintenance, and from here, Microsoft will tell you from that. But from that, that's all we have right now on general administration, and look for other webinars that cover more advanced functionality. Thanks for listening, and hope you have a great day. Bye.